All right, so let's jump right in. When you hear the word intelligence, what comes to mind? For most of us, it's probably someone who's a whiz at math or can remember, every single historical fact. We tend to think of it as a number, an IQ score, that tells you how smart you are. But what if the rarest, most powerful kind of intelligence is something a test can't even touch? I mean, think about it for a second. We've all met someone like this, right? They're brilliant on paper. Top of their class maybe, super book smart, but they just keep making the same bad decisions over and over. They could argue their way out of a paper bag, but they have zero ability to see when their own logic is completely falling apart. It kind of shows there's a huge gap in how we usually think about intelligence. And that brings us to the big idea here. See, the rarest kind of intelligence isn't about what you think. It's not about having all the answers. It's all about how you think. It's about the questions you're willing to ask, especially the ones you point right back at yourself. So yeah, we're talking about something deeper, a type of intelligence that's not just about crunching numbers or memorizing facts. It's the art of thinking about your own thinking. It's like being able to step outside of yourself for a moment and just watch the gears of your own mind turning. That's what we're going to get into. So, what is this metacognitive IQ? Well, put simply, it's the ability to step outside of your own head and observe your thoughts and biases from a distance. It's like having an internal pause button. You can stop, look at what you're thinking, and ask, hang on a second, why do I believe that? Is there actual evidence for this, or does it just feel right to me? And you know what the best part is? This isn't like a regular IQ score that's pretty much set. No, this is a skill. It's like a muscle, and that means anyone, and I really mean anyone, can build it up and get stronger with practice. Okay, so the big question is, how do you know if you have this? Or maybe even more important, how do you start building it? Well, we're going to break down 5 key signs, 5 things you can look for to spot this rare kind of intelligence. All right, here's our roadmap. We're going to start with questioning your assumptions. Then we'll dive into how to monitor your own biases. After that, we'll talk about adjusting your strategies when things aren't working. Then there's a really interesting one, using third-person self-talk. And finally, we'll land on maybe the most important one of all, practicing intellectual humility. So let's kick it off with number 1. Right, sign number 1. You question your own assumptions. People who are really good at this, they're constantly poking holes in their own beliefs. They get that a lot of what we think of as truth is actually built on these shaky foundations of stuff we've never even questioned. So they go digging. They test that foundation to see if it'll actually hold up. And this is a really key distinction here, because we mix these two up all the time. Assumptions, think of those as the unconscious stories we tell ourselves. Things like, oh, I'm just not a creative person. We don't even realize we're telling ourselves that story. Biases, on the other hand, are more like your brain's default settings, the mental shortcuts it loves to take. Spotting the difference between the story and the shortcut, that's huge. And that leads us perfectly into sign number 2. You actively monitor your biases. See, it's one thing to know that biases exist, right? It's another thing entirely to become like a detective in your own head, constantly looking for them in real time. This isn't something you do once, it's an ongoing job, a constant watch. And here's the question you have to keep asking yourself. Are my beliefs actually based on evidence, or are they just based on my own preference? Am I holding this view because the facts point this way, or just because it's comfortable? Man, it takes some serious guts to answer that honestly. All right, number 3, this one is all about being adaptable. Look, we all get stuck. We all hit a wall. But the difference is, instead of just, banging your head against that same wall harder and harder, someone with this skill knows when it's time to find a door. They don't just work harder, they actually change how they're working. And this breaks it down so simply. Step 1 is just recognizing you're stuck. That's the alarm bell going off in your head, hey, this isn't working. Then comes step 2. You reevaluate the whole approach. Okay, what's wrong here? Why isn't this working? And finally, step 3, you reroute. You consciously pick a new path forward. Okay, now for number 4. This one might sound a little weird at first, but trust me, it's incredibly powerful and backed by a ton of science. It's using third-person self-talk. So instead of thinking, I am so stressed out, you actually shift your perspective and talk to yourself by name or as you. Yeah, just look at this. Going from I'm so overwhelmed, where you are the feeling, to you are feeling overwhelmed. Let's break this down. Whoa. The first one is just pure emotion. The second one, it instantly creates a little bit of space. It turns you from the person drowning in the feeling into the calm coach who's standing on the sidelines ready to help. What this simple little trick does is create what experts call psychological distance. It's like turning down the volume on all that emotional static in your head, so your clear, rational brain can actually get to work. It's literally like being your own best coach. And that brings us to our fifth and final sign. And honestly, this might be the big one. It's practicing intellectual humility. And look, this is so much more than just saying, I don't know everything. It's a deep, genuine understanding that you might be wrong, and not just being okay with it, but actively welcoming the possibility. Here's the absolute core of it. Your identity is not your opinion. People who get this, they don't tie their ego up with their ideas. So if someone presents evidence that proves them wrong, it doesn't feel like a personal attack. To them, it feels like a gift, an opportunity to get a little closer to what's actually true. Their sense of self is totally safe. So what does this actually look like in real life? Well, it means you actually welcome new evidence, even if it contradicts what you believe. It means you can detach your ego from your ideas when you're in a discussion. And it means you are genuinely, truly open to being wrong. That's not weakness. That's the ultimate sign of intellectual strength. Okay, so that's the 5 signs. But let's get to the real takeaway here. Why does this matter so much, especially right now? Well, in the world we live in, just flooded with information and, let's be honest, misinformation, being able to think about how you think isn't a nice to have anymore. It's pretty much a survival skill. Because let's be clear, metacognitive IQ isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's not about winning every single debate or getting the highest score. That's the old school way of thinking about intelligence. This is all about what's happening on the inside. No, it's about becoming the most aware, the most adaptable, and ultimately the wisest version of yourself. Building this skill is how you become a better learner, a sharper problem solver, and just a wiser person who can handle all the complexity life throws at you. So, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. Don't just listen to this and move on. Try to apply it. What is one assumption you hold about yourself, about the world, about anything that you could really question today? Just one, because that's where it all starts.